So we got a snare here. And I'm going to leave this up here just so you guys can see what's going on. It's definitely got more top end. Now for this, again, I don't want to touch it too much. You know, I always like to control the dynamics a little bit. I feel like the more you control the dynamics, the easier it is to mix. So again, this, I'm not doing anything special on this. It's again just a way for me to just make sure that it's barely being controlled, and I mean barely. So again, partly because it's printed so hot, you can see, I mean, it's going right up to 0. So even with the threshold set at 0, I'm still getting compression. Not much, again, it's like the kick, 2 dB, but just enough to control it a little bit. Now let's go ahead and duplicate this. We're gonna do basically the same kind of thing. I don't think this is gonna need too much more attack, but in case we need it, I just like to set it up. That way when I'm mixing, I can be more in the vibe of things and not the technical side of things. So here we go. We can start with, again, a great preset for starting off on this snare. So you guys can hear it's really working, right? Raw. It's thick. Here. Well, yeah, all you're getting is that little bit of attack. So let's go ahead and get the threshold right. I'm just trying to find that point where basically the main part of that attack is coming through, but all that tail stuff is being removed. And that's sounding pretty good right about there. Now for this, because there's no quick snares, you know, I'm just looking at the arrangement, it's all pretty steady. I think I can go with a little bit longer of a release. So cool. With a longer release, less of that tail is coming out because it's taking longer for it to get back to 0. So let's hear where that is. And without it, with it, that's sounding pretty good. Now, I don't think I need to EQ too much of this guy because it has kind of everything I want and nothing I don't. And again, this is just in case I need it. So let's get rid of all this stuff. And just try to blend it in, see what we're working with, see how they sound together. Now, it already has a lot of attack, so I don't think we'll need much of this. But you can hear it's really adding like the whack, you know. So it's really pushing the snare outside of the speakers instead of being like this really crushed snare. It's allowing you to add in the attack to really make it jump out at you. You hear that? Now, I'm just going to use a little bit of it. I don't want it to be too aggressive. somewhere in there. And then let's take it another step further, right? Because they gave us so few drums. I really want to beef it up and give it character. Now, one of my favorite things of drums, or my favorite drum sounds, I should say, was when all the producers were using like MPCs. I can't even remember the main one, but I think there's like MPC 3000 and MPC 4000, MPC 5000, and all those. Super popular to use, and the drums always sounded great. And part of the reason for that, I think, is the fact that everything was getting quantized a bit, because it was all at 12 bits, and it all had a maximizer on it. So everything coming out kind of had this lo-fi sound, which really made it sound great. I mean, I think any producer will tell you, if you have drums coming off an MPC, it's going to knock harder than anything else. So I'm going to try to mimic that a bit. And let's see if we can't find lo-fi. And I'm just going to bring this down from 24 down to 12 bits. Now what you'll hear is, as you bring the bits down, you get less information for the dynamic range. So the tails of things will start to get cut off. It'll start to sound more digital. It'll just give it a kind of a harder, grittier sound. So let's just hear, I'll go all the way down just to hear what it does. So there's an extreme example at 2 bits, and then at 4 bits, you have more information that can kind of describe the tail of it. I'm gonna go to 12 bits. So here you got a smooth tail. Here it's a slightly grittier tail. It's just ever so slightly. And I think I'm gonna add a little bit of distortion, just to make it even edgier. Now, if we go too extreme, it starts distorting way out of control, right? And you can hear more of that 12 bits. Just so you guys can really hear what I'm talking about. This is 12 bits. Here's 24. So let's bring that down. Let's bring this. Okay, so that's with it clean and the gritty. Yeah, I really like what it's doing to the tail. It's making it gritty, it's making it dirty. Kind of like what I did with the kick, adding that sample to get that tail and that grit. Because there's not a lot going on, we do want to add these little bits of flavor that mess with the psychoacoustics, that play with people's ears, make the track more exciting. And hopefully, people will hear something new every time they hear the mix, right? Or it's like, you have your favorite song and you finally listen to it on headphones and you discover all these new things. So I'm just trying to add textures, flavors, anything to kind of build it up and help with the mixing process. So this is sounding pretty good. This will be the dirty snare. This will be my attack snare. This is my full one, right? So again, just hear what we're doing. I like it. Okay, so let's get these guys. And let's just blend this in. So you can see it, even down to negative 18 dB, it seems pretty low, right? But because the frequencies are accumulating, you're definitely hearing quite a drastic difference, and it's adding quite a few dB. It sounds like a couple dB at least. Maybe not a couple dB, but it's adding some volume, and I like what it's doing. So that's sounding good. I'm gonna get my snares together. This is my snare group. So now I'm just gonna kind of rough it in. Let's see. Right off the bat, I'm gonna turn up this main kick. And I'm listening a little bit louder right now because we are doing the kick and the snare. I'm just trying to make sure the low end's sounding good, making sure it's feeling right, and all that good stuff. So here we go. So I'm adding more of the original back in, more of that body and back end of the kick. And so the idea being, I'm not trying to copy the references that I listen to, but I'm just trying to keep them in mind, because, you know, you can think of mixing a bit visually sometimes. And again, I want the kick to be here. I kind of want the snare just under it. That way I can have the vocal here. Other times you might have it the other way around, where you have the kick here, the snare up here, and the vocal in here. But for this one, I'm gonna have the snare slightly behind the kick. And then as we keep going, we'll see how that placement's sounding. So now, let's go ahead and close this. That's kind of our kicks and our snares, right? And we got everything. I got everything I kind of need to tweak it on the fly. You know, I spent, you know, time on stuff that we might not even end up using, like this bassy one, but at least it's there and I have it, and the foundation's sounding great.